In the bustling city of San Francisco in 2011, nestled among the towering hills and iconic bridges, the von Richter family lived a life of privilege and wealth. They were among the city's elite, with a multi-million-dollar mansion perched in the exclusive Pacific Heights neighborhood. Manfred von Richter, the patriarch, was a highly respected civil engineer with a successful career managing infrastructure projects across California. His wife, Maria, was a well-regarded psychiatrist, known for her gentle demeanor and deep empathy for her patients. Together, they raised two children, their eldest, 20-year-old Susan, and her younger brother, 16-year-old Andrew. Susan was everything one might expect from a young woman raised in such an affluent environment. She was intelligent, poised, and well-educated, fluent in 3 languages, and a law student at Stanford University. Despite her academic achievements, Susan was shy and introverted, rarely the center of attention. She had a small group of friends and was known to be a quiet, obedient daughter, admired for her grace and humility. Her younger brother Andrew, on the other hand, was more outgoing, sharing his father's passion for engineering and spending his free time building model airplanes. To outsiders, the von Richters appeared to be the perfect family, wealthy, well-mannered, and close-knit. However, beneath the surface, tensions were brewing. Susan had recently begun dating a young man named Daniel Rowley, a mechanic from a working-class background. Unlike Susan, Daniel was far from the picture of academic success. At 22, he had dropped out of community college and spent most of his time working odd jobs at a local garage. He was rebellious, unpredictable, and had a penchant for smoking marijuana and partying, traits that clashed with Susan's otherwise polished image. Susan's parents disapproved of her relationship with Daniel. They had hoped she would find a partner who shared her values and ambition, someone who could match the family's social status. But Susan was captivated by Daniel's carefree spirit and rugged charm, seeing in him an escape from the pressures of her privileged upbringing. As her relationship with Daniel deepened, so too did the strain between Susan and her parents. Manfred and Maria tried to intervene, forbidding Susan from seeing Daniel. But their attempts only pushed her further into his arms. As the summer of 2011 approached, Susan's once quiet rebellion began to take a darker turn. Her frustration with her parents' disapproval grew, and with Daniel's encouragement, she began plotting a way to free herself from their control once and for all. What started as whispers of defiance turned into a calculated plan, one that would shake the foundations of the von Richter family and the entire San Francisco community. On the night of October 31st, 2011, while much of the city was celebrating Halloween, a gruesome scene was unfolding in the von Richter mansion. Susan and Daniel, along with Daniel's older brother Christian, had devised a chilling plan to murder Manfred and Maria. After dropping her brother Andrew off at a friend's Halloween party, Susan returned home with Daniel and Christian, sneaking them into the house while her parents slept. Earlier in the evening, Susan had deactivated the mansion's state-of-the-art security system, ensuring that no alarms would be triggered. She led the two men upstairs, where they donned surgical gloves and hoods. Armed with metal rods, they entered Manfred and Maria's bedroom. The attack was swift and brutal. The couple, startled from their sleep, tried to defend themselves, but the blows were too severe. In the end, Maria was suffocated with a plastic bag, while Manfred's skull was crushed by repeated strikes. Within minutes, the once peaceful von Richter home was turned into a crime scene. After the murders, the trio staged the house to make it look like a robbery gone wrong. They scattered papers and valuables around the room, making it seem as though burglars had ransacked the place. Then, Susan and Daniel left to check into a nearby hotel, using the time-stamped receipt as an alibi, while Christian went to a fast food restaurant to ensure he was seen in public. At 4 a.m., Susan returned home with her brother Andrew, who was unaware of the horrors that had taken place just hours earlier. Upon entering the house, Susan pretended to discover her parents' lifeless bodies. She screamed in horror, calling the police and playing the role of the devastated daughter. Andrew, genuinely distraught, had no idea his sister was behind the murders. The police arrived quickly, but something about the crime scene didn't add up. There were no signs of forced entry, and the ransacking seemed too methodical for a typical home invasion. As detectives began to investigate, suspicions quickly turned towards Susan. Her behavior, both during the initial discovery and at her parents' funeral, raised eyebrows. While Andrew was inconsolable, Susan appeared cold and detached, barely shedding a tear during the service. The case broke wide open when police received an anonymous tip. Christian, Daniel's brother, had recently purchased a brand new motorcycle with cash, a large sum of money he couldn't possibly afford given his meager income. Investigators tracked Christian down, and under intense questioning, he cracked. He confessed to his role in the murders and implicated Susan and Daniel. The motive? Susan stood to inherit millions from her parents' estate, and with them out of the picture, she and Daniel could live a life of luxury together. Susan and Daniel were arrested soon after. During her interrogation, Susan tried to shift the blame onto Daniel, claiming that he had coerced her into the plan and that she had been under the influence of drugs. But Daniel's testimony told a different story. He admitted to the killings, but insisted that Susan had been the mastermind, driven by her desire for freedom and the family's fortune. The trial, which began in July 2015, captivated the nation. The prosecution painted Susan as a manipulative and cold-blooded killer, while the defense tried to portray her as a naive young woman under the control of a dangerous boyfriend. In the end, the jury saw through Susan's attempts to garner sympathy. On July 22, 2015, she, Daniel, and Christian were all found guilty of first-degree murder. Susan and Daniel were sentenced to 40 years in prison, while Christian received a 30-year sentence for his role in the crime. Even behind bars, Susan's story continued to make headlines. In 2018, she filed an appeal, claiming that a personality disorder had led her to commit the murders, but her request for early release was denied. Despite her conviction, Susan remains the legal heir to her family's estate, meaning that when she is eventually released from prison, she will inherit the millions left behind by her parents. The aftermath of the murders left a deep scar on the von Richter family. Andrew, who had idolized his older sister, was left shattered by the betrayal. In 2017, neighbors found him wandering the streets in the middle of the night, holding a family heirloom and muttering incoherently. He was later hospitalized for severe psychological trauma. The once grand von Richter mansion was sold, its white facade now a stark reminder of the tragedy that had unfolded within its walls. As for Susan, her story serves as a chilling reminder of how greed and manipulation can tear even the most seemingly perfect families apart. Though she may one day walk free, the legacy of her actions will forever haunt those she left behind.